In this session, we're going to be looking at the topic understanding business etiquettes and relationships. And the voice you're hearing once again is that of Izini Uzoije. Don't forget that you're supposed to take your pre-test at this link. Go ahead and take your pre-test at this link before you go on in this session. And we're going to be looking at this outline, what business is, how to build a business brand, what business etiquette is, and the various types of etiquettes that exist, and the principles for maintaining business relationships. So, what is business? According to Wikipedia, business is the activity of making one's money or making a living by producing and selling products. So it's simply any activity or enterprise that you enter into for profit. Basically, what is involved in building a business relationship or brand? First of all, it starts with being unique. So by being unique, it means that there is something that separates your business from that of another person's business. This topic is very important because a lot of us here will be going out to start our own businesses right after this fellowship. And even if you're not going to be starting your own business, you're going to be working at a business. And the truth is that every business, every brand that is going to scale needs to differentiate itself from another brand, from another business. Don't make the mistake of buying into the ideology of copying verbatim everything about another business in order to start yours. So creating fakes or knockoffs of another business will mean that yours will always be dependent on that business's goods. If that business falls, that's it. Your own has fallen as well. So it's best that when you're starting out, you are supposed to create your own unique selling proposition, something that differentiates you from another business. All right. So I'll give you an example. When you think of Coca-Cola and then you think of Pepsi, they are both selling drinks, different sorts of drinks. They're both companies that sell drinks to people. But through consistent branding and messaging, you've understood how they are different, both in taste and both in their ideologies. So that's how it's supposed to be for your business as well. You may be in the same business with lots of competitors, but there needs to be something that differentiates you from them. And another thing is to build great products and services. So even as you are being unique in your branding, in your messaging, in the promise that you make to your customers, you need to make sure that the products they are offering to them is actually a good one, is a great one. You need to make sure that your services are unique. So if you're going to be in the business of providing software development services to other people, to other companies, ensure that the final software that you deliver is of great quality. Don't let it be filled with the errors. Don't let it be something that drags on for too long. If you make a promise that, oh, it can take us 2 months tops for us to deliver on this project, ensure that you stick to it. Don't let a 2 months project go on to 1 year, for instance. All right. So it means that you need to ensure that you're building great products, great services, ensure that you're living up to this name because no matter how unique you try to make your brand to be, if at the end of the day the product or service you're offering is not great enough, people will still end up not patronizing you because they get to hear from other people and so it can destroy the reputation of your brand. Then another important thing when you're building a business brand is to ensure that you start out with a good name, right? Start out with a good name, and there are different ways of coming up with good names. But the key to getting a good name for a business is to ensure that it at least stands for something. It has a little meaning to it, a significance to it. If you actually watch a lot of startup pitch competitions and you will hear when some people are randomly asked, some founders are randomly asked, what does your startup name mean? How did you come about it? You would notice that the people that just said, oh, I just thought it sounded nice, will always lose some points from it. And those points are not just from that competition. In real life too, people want to know that your name came out from great thinking. So make your name stand for something, even if it's something in your local dialect or language, all right? So have a good name, and when you are choosing a name, ensure that the name has stickability to it. So how do you know a name that is stickable? One that Even after the name is mentioned, it's not too long, it's easy to spell. So one of the factors that you need to put into consideration when you're choosing a good name is to ensure that there are not too much consonants of the same letter or the same alphabet. So for instance, you're choosing a name that there's lots of R in it, maybe about three R's. You will notice that your audience would always struggle with knowing how many R's are there at the end of the day. So make it simple. When you're choosing a good name, there's a lot of thought process that goes into it. Put in some thought into it and ensure that it's stickable. Then when you actually come up with a good name, it's good that you pay a professional to come up with a logo for you. I know these days there are many tools that you can use to create your own logo, tools like Canva, PixArt. You can use that to create your own logo. But at the end of the day, that should be like a temporary measure. In time, you should save up money. You should get money from your business that will use and pay a professional, a brand identity designer that will create a logo for you. And that's the beauty of this fellowship because this fellowship has built like a community. And if you've been networking right virtually in this fellowship, you should already have associates and friends in all of the tracks so that you can leverage off their skills and serve each other in terms of value. So you can be able to get somebody that is in the graphics field to maybe create a logo for you and then you offer a service in return for that. Okay, so another thing that is important in building a business brand is to be consistent. Consistency is something that is not really emphasized a lot, but the secret to almost every success you see is consistency. So why is consistency a big deal? Because at the start of your business, it may look like nobody knows you, nobody wants to patronize you. But then if you actually stop right there, then that's it. Nobody will really get to ever know you, get to ever patronize you. So it's important that as you start a business, you are consistent with your measures to actually get that business out to the world. Ensure you tell a lot of people about it, run a lot of marketing advertising strategies. Ensure that you understand that the measures that you can use to get your customers and be consistent. Don't do it 1 month in, you go hard, and then you leave it. After 5 months, you come back again. That's a lot of inconsistency. Go consistently, and then you can be able to reap great rewards from your business. Then keep your promises. Most businesses give their customers promises. Maybe they could say, we can deliver a logo to you within 3 days. When you say something like that, that's a loud promise. And if you make a promise, you're supposed to keep it. Don't use that word or any word at all in marketing. And then when it comes to actually delivering on that promise, you now start telling your customers that it was just a marketing gimmick. Nobody will take you serious at the end of the day. So if you're saying that we can deliver a logo in 3 days, ensure you can actually deliver a logo in 3 days. And if you start and you notice, oh, this 3 days promise is not conducive, it's not something you can keep up with, either you hire people in your team to ensure that you meet up with delivering on these promises, or you actually adjust your promise. Make it something like your logo gets delivered in 1 week, right? So ensure that your promises are concise and you're keeping it. Your brand promise will be tied into the kind of product that you're actually delivering to your customers. So keep your promises and always ensure that you deliver value. At the end of the day, when people require your services, there's a hidden reason why they want to. So if someone needs websites from you, for instance, you would be surprised it's not there. They don't want a website for the fun of having a website. They don't really want a website for the fun of it. There's something they want that website to do for them. Ensure that you try to understand the reason behind every customer's or request for your service and deliver on it. Go further ahead. You will notice that most of your customers have similar needs, similar reasons why they need your service. Ensure that you're delivering to it. So if you know that people require your website so that they can make more sales, ensure you start understanding how there are websites that deliver sales to their customers and then there are websites that don't bring any sales at all. Go further and learn all those things. So you may need to even understand a little bit of SEO, a little bit of funnel hacking, a little bit of digital marketing. Go further ahead and learn all those things. Ensure that you deliver value. Deliver value to your customers because when you deliver value, your customers keep coming back, they keep referring you to other people. Then empower your customers. So how do you empower your customers? It's in different ways. Number one could be in the messaging that you use. You want your customers to understand that they can believe in your brand, that your brand stands for something for them. So, for instance, you could decide that in your brand, you are reminding them that if they build a website with you, if they hire you for a service, that it means that they are making a decision to make their business better. That's just an example. You could use your messaging to actually deliver an empowering feeling to your customer. All right. Another way to empower your customers is to, for instance, have a knowledge base. So, what is a knowledge base? It could be a blog post on your website. So let's say, for instance, you offer web development service, Android development service, digital marketing services, and you have a website. On your website, you could include blog posts that actually educate your customers. And those educative blog posts could be something that they resort to when they encounter issues in using your product or service. All right. So apart from including a knowledge base, another thing you can do is to ensure that you have a support line that is available for them. Have a support line, have a support team. Ensure that you are standby to listen to their complaints, to their inquiries while they are using your product or your service. Don't make the mistake of providing a phone number that your customers can call for complaints and then you never pick the calls from that number, or asking them to WhatsApp you and then you never open their messages, or asking them to go on Twitter and then you never respond to their inquiries. Ensure that if you're opening up channels that they can use to contact you for support, then you actually stand by to respond in a timely manner. Another way you can empower your customers is to ask for their feedback. So, for instance, if you're doing a service that maybe it is not a retainership service, you don't need to finish a website for the person and then maintain it for like 1 year. You just finish the website and deliver it. Ensure that you call after a while to ask for feedback. Ask for feedback on the processes they went through before you deliver that website to them. Were they happy with the timely manner that you delivered to them? Were they happy with the final product? Any challenges so far? So when you're actually asking for this feedback, at that point you may feel like, oh, this person is no longer your customer, the person has paid already. That feedback would help in your business. But on the other hand, it enables the customer to understand that you care about his own thoughts or her own thoughts and opinions. And in time, that person could go on to give you more jobs or refer you to other people. Another way to empower your customers is to include customer onboarding into your services. So, for instance, if you're offering services like digital marketing, graphics design, etc., ensure that you do a great customer onboarding experience. So, when someone pays you for a service, you're supposed to deliver something, have a 1 hour call with the person, have a 1 hour chat with the person where you actually list out questions that draw out answers from the person based on what the person has paid you for. So when you ask those questions, the person understands that, oh, you really cared enough to fully understand what he or she wants from you. When you actually do that kind of customer onboarding, you get to understand the intentions of your customer, what the customer hopes to achieve with your product, and it can help you to deliver a good product. At the end of the day, it leaves the customer feeling empowered. So I hope you've been able to understand in a few ways, how you can build a business brand or relationship. Now let's look at business etiquette. So, what is etiquette? Etiquette is ethical or socially acceptable behavior regarding professional practice or action amongst the members of a profession in their dealings with each other. So, what this is just saying is when it comes to etiquette, it means that you are behaving in an ethical and socially acceptable manner amongst people, just people all around you, amongst people in your particular profession. So there could be etiquettes that are acceptable towards people that are in medicine that may not be acceptable towards people in tech. So you need to understand etiquette when it comes to the general etiquette, business etiquette, and then general etiquette that applies to people in your profession or in your field. So there is corporate etiquette, and corporate etiquette is like a set of agreed upon rules that you see for behaving in a business environment. So you could come into a business environment and you see that There are agreed upon rules that you need to abide on for that business environment. Maybe you go for a business meeting or you go for a conference, there's a certain agreed upon rules for behaving in that area. Sometimes it's in that area that is agreed upon. Maybe you go for a seminar and then you people can decide to come up with house rules. So for instance, in that seminar they could say don't pick calls. And maybe in other seminars you went to, it was not really agreed upon. So in that seminar you go to, you notice that the corporate etiquette for that moment is those agreed upon rules like not picking calls. So I hope this is clear. The thing is, these etiquettes are important for maintaining business relationships. It colors the way people see you, the way people see your business, and the way you can generally climb in any profession. So let's look at the different etiquettes that exist and the principles that exist for maintaining business relationships. All right, number one is arriving on time to work. So if you're working somewhere, whether you are the owner of that business or you are just an employee, once there is an agreed time for resuming work, it's only proper that you actually arrive on time for that work. So if you're supposed to resume work by 9, if you come by 9:10, understand that you're late. And if that keeps repeating, then if you're actually an employee, you could get sanctions for it. You could get queries for it. If you're working at that, if you are the owner of that business, understand that your employees may start looking at it like you're not somebody that actually abides by your own rules and regulations. So always try to arrive on time to work. Another one is to dress appropriately. There are different dressing that are required for different occasions. Try not to wear the dressing that you're supposed to wear to a party to work because it could be distracting. You already have an idea of how party dressing could be. It could be very casual, very flashy. Don't wear the same thing to work. There's actually a reason why dark colors are usually preferred for meetings because it's less distracting. So dress appropriately to any function you're going to. Understand that they are dressing for dinner parties. Understand that they are dressing for work day meetings. Understand that they are dressing for maybe something like a beach party. So dress appropriately. The next thing is to speak kindly. So what does it mean to speak kindly? It means that you're not rude in your speech. You're not very confrontational in your speech. Speaking kindly means that you're able to show care and empathy in your speech, even if the person you're talking to did something wrong. So it doesn't mean that when you're speaking kindly that you are not making a point or passing a message across, but that you also care that you were talking to another human being. So try and ensure that you speak kindly, especially to people that may be your subordinates in the work environment. Also, another thing is to avoid diversionary conversations in the office. So, what does this mean? It means that you need to understand that topics like politics, religion are diversionary conversations. Sometimes soccer falls into this as well. They are diversionary because people have different opinions about all of these things. People have different opinions about tribalistic things, politics, religion, soccer. So try not to bring them up in the office because when you bring them up, you could start having heavy arguments. People could just start hating you unnecessary or stop working with you on some projects because they feel like, oh, you don't believe in what I believe. So the best thing is to avoid bringing them up. Even when it's brought up, you're not the one that brought up the conversation, you can stay on the neutral side of things. So it's always important in your office, especially you don't bring up these conversations. Don't bring them up with a client, with weak clients, or even your colleagues at work because you don't want to bring up unnecessary arguments. Another thing is to avoid gossip and eavesdropping. Don't be the person that talks about your colleague at work. Don't be the person that eavesdrops when your boss is having some conversations with a client. Don't be the person that eavesdrops on your own employees. Avoid gossip and eavesdropping because when you do it, it makes you to avoid unnecessary issues. So just understand that you can be able to deliver work effectively when you don't know what someone else is saying about you, when you don't engage in talks about someone else. So try and avoid gossip and eavesdropping. Then another thing is to be present when someone is talking to you. show interest when someone is talking to you. Don't get into the habit of someone is talking to you and it seems like you are always absent minded. It will always make you to come off as somebody that is not interesting to work with or to talk to. You would notice that people may avoid putting you in teams or working on delivering projects with you. So ensure that you show interest when someone is talking to you. So how do you show interest when someone is talking to you? If you're with your phone, that may be the best time to actually keep that phone down. Don't always be in the habit of you're having a conversation or you're in a meeting with somebody where you're pressing your phone, you're using that time to check up on all the messages from Facebook and WhatsApp. So when you actually put the phone down and try and maintain eye contact, it shows the other person that you are interested in what the person has to say. Another thing is to watch your body language. And how do you watch your body language? Ideally, in the work environment, you should go in on shaking people and not really hugging. So, while hugging may seem like, oh, this is a way that you actually use to interact with people, in the office environment, you should shake more than you hug. Only shake people. Don't really go ahead and just hug everybody you see. Some people may feel put off by that, especially people that don't know you or are not close to you. So watch your body language. Also watch your body language in meetings. Don't always give off that negative vibe, that slouch in your body that shows that you are tired and fed up. Ensure that you are upbeat, that you seem positive, and actually be positive. Then another thing is to introduce yourself and others. Get into the habit of introducing yourself in meetings. Don't be the person that is timid. When you're asked, "Oh, what's your name?" You just you stammer and mutter your name. Get into the habit of understanding how you can talk about yourself in 1 minute, in 2 minutes. Say your name, say what you do, say your interest. All right. Then importantly, get into the habit of introducing others that you're with. So this is a very good tool for networking. When you go to meetings, when you go to events with people, try and be the one that links someone else to someone else. Try and be the one that introduces someone else to someone else. If you know that you go to a meeting and there's a client that is with you, the person has been looking for a graphics designer and you are a web developer, and the person beside you that is your colleague, that is your friend, is a graphic designer or works with a team of designers, you can go ahead and say, oh, let me introduce you to my friend, let me introduce my colleague, and then be the person that is the linker, that is the broker, because that will set you apart from others. That will bring you lots of opportunities as well. Then another thing is don't interrupt someone that's talking to you. When someone is talking to you in the official setting, maybe it's having a conversation with you, try and understand that you need to let the person finish his own talk, finish her own talk before you actually chip in yours. Don't get into the habit of someone is talking and then you decide that you must make your point at that point in time. Keep what you have to say in your mind and try to let the other person finish talking before you can bring up your own talk. Then, interestingly, you should mind what to say. Mind what to say in the office environment, mind what to say at work. Even if you feel strongly about something, try to understand that you mustn't really say everything that is on your mind. It's maturity to know that you may feel strongly about something, you may have strong opinions about something, but not everybody must actually hear what you're saying. So, even if you feel like you're working somewhere and things are not being done properly, understand that you need to mind how you bring up that conversation, mind how you say it, mind the way you put it across. So understand that you need to blend your words, blend your emotions in order to finally deliver the outcome that you want. So something may not be done right in a workplace, for instance, and the approach that you use to talk about it may actually get you into trouble. It may get you arrested. It may get people misunderstanding you. So you need to keep the end goal that you have in mind. Are you actually talking about something because you want it to change? Then probably shouting about it may not be the point. Okay? You may need to call for a meeting. You may need to find different approaches for bringing up that topic so that it can be looked at. So mind what you say, mind who you say it to, and also mind the kind of words that you say. Try not to say vulgar languages or swear words. Then another thing is to consume correctly. What does it mean to consume correctly? Try not to take alcohol at work or before you go to work. In fact, a lot of workplaces have very strict rules against alcohol. because they understand that people could take alcohol and come to work and spoil their office property. They now say, oh, there'll be tests before you actually enter a property. If you have alcohol in your system, you could get fired. So even if there are no strict rules in your office, try and consume correctly. Don't go to work by 8 o'clock and you are heavily intoxicated. You started drinking from 5 a.m. or something like that. Consume correctly. Don't overeat and go to work. Consume correctly. Even when you are at work, even when you go for business lunches or dinners, consume correctly. Don't overindulge or make lots of noises when you're eating at the staff canteen and things like that. Then remember to do thank you notes to your clients. When you actually have clients that paid you for a service and you delivered on that service and the business is over, try and make up time to send a mail, send a thank you note. Some people go as far as getting things like cake. All right, I've seen things like that. And what it does for you is that it tells the client that you remember, you're thankful for the business that they brought for you. You use that to stay top of mind in their own mind so that next time when there's such opportunity you will get referred, you're the choice that they still want to work with. So remember to do thank you notes. As much as they've paid you for the service that you provided, go ahead and take the extra mile and send them an email, thank them for the opportunity, remind them that you're willing to work with them further ahead, remind them that they could refer you to others as well. Then another thing you should always do to maintain your business relationships is to know the names of your clients and colleagues at work. It can be a struggle for some people to remember the names of their clients, but if you have this struggle, work on it. Even if it means keeping a journal of every client's face and their pictures, go ahead and do that. Get into the habit of knowing your client's name. Get into the habit of knowing your colleagues' names. If you're working in small spaces, it could be easy for you to know everybody's name. But when you're in a facility where there are maybe 50 staff, it's important that you know the key colleagues, the key people in your team, know their functions, know their names. Because when you're actually able to know their names, they see it as you know that they exist, that they matter. They get to relate with you more than when you keep telling them, "Oh, I forgot your name. I forgot your name." It could come off as very embarrassing, and they may not want to relate with you very often. Then another thing is to communicate when you can meet any deadline. So if you're working for an organization and you have team members or you have a line manager that assigned tasks to you, and maybe you were supposed to deliver on a task by 4 p.m., always communicate when you can meet that deadline. Always let them know before you are asked about that deadline. So if you are assigned a task to deliver by 4 p.m. and you know by 3:30, for instance, that there's no how you can deliver on that task by 4 p.m., go ahead and communicate. In some circles, in some organizations, that communication may need to be via mail. Send a mail, explain that you can't deliver on the task, give a time that you may be able to deliver on that task. All right, it's a lot better than when after 4 p.m. your line manager or your supervisor or the CEO himself calls you by 5 and asks you for the project. And now say, "Oh, I've not sent it because I'm not done." It comes up as very unprofessional and quite rude in some circles. So be the one that communicates when you can't meet a deadline. The same applies whether you are when you are an employer, when you actually have clients. If you have clients that you're supposed to deliver on certain projects for them, but you can't meet a deadline, be the one that reaches out and explain to them that, look, this is what, give them a reason why you cannot deliver, give them a tentative time when you can deliver. It makes you more trustworthy, it makes people to look forward to working with you, and makes you more professional. Then always pay attention to details when you're submitting projects. There could be different details depending on your track, depending on your career path. It could be that you need to pay details to the spellers. It could be that you need to pay details to the links. Are the links actually clickable? Are they linking to somewhere? It could be that you need to pay details to different sorts of things, the graphics, everything, right? Ensure that you pay attention to details before you submit projects, especially final submissions, because when you actually pay attention to details, whether it's to clients or whether it's to team members, it makes you look more trustworthy. It makes you look like somebody that can actually deliver on things. When you don't pay attention to details, you can come off as very unprofessional. People may not want to really trust you with tax or with some other future jobs. So pay attention to details. Have you been enjoying this so far? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments. Interestingly, I want you to understand that these etiquettes are not a uniform set of standards around the whole world, but we just picked on the most that we felt like may be the same across all cultures, across every other country. So, for instance, a wave in Nigeria could be different from a wave in another country. All right, there are already some countries that their own form of business greeting could be a peck on the cheek. So if you're working in another culture, in another country, you need to familiarize yourself quickly with what is existent there. Now let's go over to some other etiquettes in details. We've already talked about dress etiquette, but then I want to spend some more time to talk about dressing. If you are actually working somewhere, you need to invest in an iron. Don't be the person that shows up to work in rumpled clothing. It doesn't make you look smart. If there are leadership positions that are being considered, you'll be surprised that because of how you dress, you're not on the list. People don't think of you as a leader. So pay attention to how your outfits look. Buy an iron. If you don't have electricity because of the country that we live in, invest in charcoal iron, right? Invest in your because in time it pays off, right? And then it's always okay if you have special events in your office to ask for the dress code. For instance, if there is a business dinner and you've never been on a business dinner, it's okay to go on the internet and ask what sort of things constitutes as outfits for a business dinner. You can go ahead and ask your human resource manager at work or your line manager or supervisor, past events like that, what was the dress code. You need to understand what you should wear for different occasions, and don't be afraid to ask for guidance. Go ahead and ask for guidance. You can do it privately, ask your colleagues at work, all right? Go ahead and ask for guidance. And you always need to dress for the job that you want, not the one you currently have. So even if the one you have is not paying a lot of money, ensure that you have a budget for actually getting dressed normally, wearing formal clothing that is interesting for you. So when it comes to the wardrobe, things like white color, black color, stripes are usually suggested for everybody to have, at least in terms of going for business meetings and things like that. Ensure that you have them. And in tech, a lot of the times, casual clothing is allowed, right? So even as much as casual clothing is allowed, pay attention to the quality of the clothing you're wearing. Are there tears on it? Right? Then you may need to stop wearing it. Is it so rumpled? You may need to really iron it. Don't be the one that is casual but you look dirty. So pay attention to your dressing. Then let's go over to business meeting etiquette. What are the etiquettes that are expected of you in a business meeting? First of all, you need to understand that if you are the host of a meeting, that's if you're the one that called for a meeting, then you need to have an agenda that you send ahead of time for the meeting. Don't be the one that calls for a meeting and then in the meeting you are trying to set an agenda. You're telling them, hey, what should we talk about? And let's decide on something we'll talk about. It comes off as if you deliberately want to waste everybody's time. So if you're the one that called for a meeting, send the agenda to your participants, the people that will be guests at that meeting ahead of time. Then start and stop the meeting on time. All right. If you're the host, start and stop the meeting on time. Don't wait for late comers. Don't let everybody that came for the meeting wait for five more people that are very late. All right. If you have some good numbers, start as much as possible so that you get to deliver the message on time and not waste the time of every other person that came on time. Then it's important to understand that when you are on meetings, you need to allow all participants to be involved. Ask for their opinions, encourage participation, encourage them to bring up their ideas and all of that because it will help you to be able to arrive at conclusions on time. Then understand that if you called for a meeting, if you are the host, you are the one that should take care of the bill. And this is regardless of gender, whether you're male or female. If you're the one that called for a meeting, you should be the one that should take care of the bill. And there are instances where your guests may decide to take care of the bill too. So you need to understand non-verbal cues. You need to understand when they're telling you, oh, let me take care of that. And you don't need to sweat it so much if someone wants to actually pay. All right. But if you called for a meeting, be the one that understands that you're going to pay. And sometimes companies pick up the tabs for meetings. That means if you're actually hosting a meeting with a client, it's the company you're working for that will pay for that meeting, for the lunch and everything. Understand all of this and put them into consideration. Understand the company policies that regard such meetings. Sometimes such policies include things like you bringing back the receipt for the lunch or for the meeting so that it can be accounted for properly. So get to understand all of these things very well. Then, if you are having a business meeting in a restaurant, you need to understand that sometimes when you order for something, it could take a while before your order gets served. It could take a few minutes, maybe 20 minutes tops, right? So understand that you need to keep the conversation going before you actually have your meal. So keep some light conversation, make some small talks, talk about different things. Maybe even know your clients in some detail. You can ask about their work, family, things like that. Keep some small talks. You can talk about the business environment generally. All right. Normally, when you are the host, you are the one that's when the meal comes, you should put the napkin. There's something called a napkin. You normally see it in restaurants. The napkin on the table has to go on your lap. So you should place the napkin on your lap. Is when you place it on your lap that other guests get to place theirs. So get to understand this. If you are a guest at a business meeting, you shouldn't be the first to actually place it. You need to wait for your host, watch him as he places his. You don't need to really egg him on and say, oh, place your own, I'm waiting for you. That's not how it works. Just watch him. If he places his, you get to place yours. All right. These are just etiquettes that you see in business meetings. And it may not really matter to you right now, but trust me, when you're meeting with a lot of people that have been in business for years, they're looking at all of these things silently. They want to ensure that you actually understand what it means to be in the business world. So you need to pay attention to these little things. And also, what happens to the napkin when you're done eating? You don't fold it back. You actually just place it loosely on the table, right? So usually at the left of the plate too, as well. So don't be the one that you finish eating, then you fold your napkin. It comes off as awkward. Maybe people may not tell you, but people that understand these things may just take note of all those little mistakes that you're making. Then don't be the one that over orders at a table. All right. If the host did not order for coffee, don't order for coffee. If the host says, oh, there'll be no appetizers, there'll be no dessert, there'll just be the main meal, don't be the one that goes and wants those things. All right. Follow the host's lead. Right. So by now, I know you must have understood that you need to always watch your host for clues, and that you understand that if you are the host, you need to lead the case. You need to lead everything because your guests will be watching you for clues. So right after this, you may need to familiarize yourself with stable manners, or if you're actually aware of all of them, great, fantastic. But little things like knowing, like for instance, if you go to a restaurant, if your menu is still open when others have fully decided, then it gives the impression that you've not made up your mind. You may be surprised that every other person, the waiter could go around and ask them for their order, but will skip you. And if you really look, your menu is open, and the waiter has understood it to mean that you've not made up your mind. So if you made up your mind on what to have, you need to close your menu. These are little things that you need to pay attention to at business meetings. Then when it comes to what to actually order, don't be the one that goes for the least expensive or the most expensive thing. Just go in between. And if you are the host, encourage your guests. All right. You could mention to them, oh, you've tried something on the menu. You could tell them, oh, this one is great. Try this one. Be the one that encourages them because they'll be waiting for your cues. They'll be looking up to you for what to say because you are likely going to be the one that will take care of the bill. And also remember that when you're having those small talks, you shouldn't bring up diversionary topics. Don't talk about religious beliefs, but their financial situation, terminal illness, or even if you know about someone's family life or divorce, someone's weight, don't really bring it up at the table. Avoid all of those diversionary talks. You want to actually make small talk that doesn't make the next person uncomfortable. And as the host, it's your job to actually steer the conversation, to suggest topics for discussion, what to be said. And usually, business talk is had towards the end of the meal. Really, you don't really talk about business talk when people are still ordering their food. So have all of these things in mind. As I said, you may need to update yourselves with table manners and all of that if you're not so dictated, but if you are beautiful. Now let's talk about business letters. Frequently in business, you will need to be writing letters a lot, especially when you're closing deals, when you're having conversations with your clients or with lawyers. And these business letters are important because they serve as a documentation in case things are misunderstood or go wrong. So when you're actually writing the letters, remember that you need to start with a salutation of the person. So you could start with dear Miss, dear Mr. Understand each person's title and use it appropriately. In some circles, when you're on a first name basis with the person you're writing to, you could skip the title and then just write the person's first name. Understand things like whether you're on a first name basis with somebody or if you're not, go ahead and use titles. It's not proper for you to not be on a first name basis with somebody and then you keep calling the person by the first name. It can be really frowned upon. Right. I know some of this may sound very old fashioned to you, but pay attention to these things. In the world of business is entirely different. Ensure that you avoid typographical errors or grammar mistakes in your letter. So you can go ahead and check for mistakes before you send them. Whether you're sending emails or physical copy, you need to confirm to these regulations. Ensure that you're straightforward with your English, with your grammar. So when you're writing in a formal manner, it's not the time for you to use the King James version of English to write. Ensure that you're clear. Someone that is reading it would clearly understand what you're trying to say. Don't use jargon. If you're using email, get to understand the people that you should copy on any mail. Get to understand the difference between blind copying, that is BCC, and CC. Usually, CC means that you can copy someone and the person you're sending it to gets to see who you copied. But BCC means that that's blind copy. The person you're sending it to does not know that you copied someone else to the mail. Get to understand all of these things. So, I hope you've learned a lot about etiquettes on this session, right? So, in conclusion, here is a quote from Karen Joy Fowler. I should say, arriving late was a way of saying that your own time was more valuable than the time of the person who waited for you. So, this is just a kindly reminder when you're going for meetings, when you have an office to get to, always remember that being on time, being punctual is a form of courtesy. Then don't forget to take the post test at this link. Take the post test at this link and let drop feedback on the Slack channel on what all the sessions has been like for you. See you on the next one.